Welcome to this session. My name is Barbara Bochalia. Today we are going to look at training and development. Training and development. And this is one of the functions, one of the human resource management functions. Right? So with the training, a number of definitions have been put across to define what training and what development means. But at the end of the day, what we have to know is that training is that activity that organizations involve in, that organizations use, right? It could be formal, it could be, it's actually formal, right? That organizations use in their effort to improve performance and also help their employees have that self-fulfillment, right? So we are going to realize that there is a difference between training and development, although this word has been used synonymously, right? Training is one thing and development is also another, although they go together, right? So one scholar by the name of S. Chandra says that human assets cannot be depreciated, but rather they need to be appreciated over time. In other words, the human capital or human assets, these employees have to be trained and developed over time, right? They have to be imparted, they have to get the skills, the knowledge and the attitudes that are required in order for these organizations to have their goals be met, right? So we are going to realize that training involves imparting skills, right? Imparting skills, imparting knowledge, such that at the end of the day, depending on the objective of the organization or its goal, objectives are short-term, goals are long-term. These goals are met. For example, we saw that these organizations have a number of objectives. Some of them have an objective of profit maximization, sales maximization, output maximization. Some of them growth maximization. Some of them customer satisfaction, right? Some of them shareholders maximization, and so on. So this training is basically not only for self-fulfillment of these employees, but also to make sure that these organizations at the end of the day attain their goals through the training and development. So development, what this differentiates development from training is that after the training has been made, the development is that activity, is that process of enhancing. Enhancing is like strengthening, is that process of enhancing those conceptual skills that have been attained by these employees during the activity or process of training, to basically help them acquire that maturity and self-actualization. In other words, to have that self-confidence for themselves that, for example, they can perform a particular task confidently, right? Of course, if you have the relevant skills, you have that confidence and self-esteem when you're performing a task than someone who is not sure of, than someone who is half-baked, I should say, concerning the required skills for that particular job or for that particular position in an organization. Right? So I believe we by now we know the difference between training and development. Right? The training is short term, but the development is long term. Right? So briefly, let us look at the difference, the distinction between training and development. So training is vocationally oriented on job. In most cases, this training is on job, or it could be that a consultant is brought into the organization to impart required skills to the employees, right? So training is in most cases vocationally oriented on job training, right? Whereas development is basically a long-term process, right? Whereby whereby the employees are mentored, for example, to have the conceptual skills. In other words, to have the logic behind the logic behind the kind of work that they are doing. Then also training is for non-managerial personnel, right? To actually acquire those skills for non-managerial personnel, whereas with development is general. It's general for the managerial personnel, right? Then the training is technical, right? For example, if we are comparing, they are called mechanics, those people that repair cars that have faults, technical faults. So for example, if you went to a garage, it's called a car garage, to repair your car, there are those technical people that will repair your car, but you cannot compare that person, for example, with an engineer who has gone to school and maybe just got the papers and the theoretical idea of the implementation. So training is basically technical, whereas the development is theoretical in nature. Then for training, it is so specific that you are training for a particular skill that is required for a given position or for a given job or task, right? Whereas with the development, you're basically gaining general knowledge that will help you, that will be applied in various aspects of work, in various aspects at your workplace, right? So for example, in terms of technicality, that like we've seen that, for example, as someone who repairs a generator, for example, that person is trained to do such. But with you might find that with an engineer, these are people that are career trained, where you go and probably spend 5 years in school being trained to be an engineer, whichever engineer it would be, maybe a civil engineer, electrical engineer, mechanical engineer, telecommunication engineer. So those ones, that is what we call a development, where you basically are provided with the knowledge and principles of the particular kind of job. So I believe now we know the difference between training and development. The two words or the two concepts can be also distinguished in terms of what we call the 4 Ws, right? For example, to distinguish between training and development, you have to ask yourself, who is learning? What is learning? What is the meaning of learning? Why is such learning taking place? And when does this learning take place? So after asking yourself those 4 questions, who, what, why, and when, you will be able to distinguish between training and development. For example, using this perspective of the 4 Ws to distinguish between training and development, if we ask ourselves, who is doing the training, right? So if it is the non-managerial staff who is doing the training, right, who is being trained, the non-managerial staff who is receiving the skills, for example, that is training. If it is the managerial staff who is getting the skills, then that is development, right? Then the second question we should ask ourselves is, what is the training about? What is the training about? If it's about technical, if it's technical and mechanical in nature, then that is training, right? And then also when we ask ourselves, what is it imparting, right? What is this kind of learning imparting, right, into to the employees? Is it imparting conceptual ideas? If it is imparting conceptual ideas, then that is development. Then we also ask ourselves, why is the training, why is this learning being done? If it is done, if it is learning for a specific job, for example, you're doing it for a mechanic, right? It is being done for a mechanic, then it means that is training. That is training. But if it is a general, if it is general knowledge that is being passed on to everyone, then that is development. Then the fourth question is, when is the training? When is the training? When is that education kind of activity by the organization? What is its duration? In other words, if it's short term, then that's training, because we've already seen that training is a short term. If it's long term, then that is development. So that is one way we can distinguish between the two terms, training and development. So development is also called human resource development. Human resource development, and the essence of all of the training and the development, we've already seen that it aims at imparting knowledge, skills, and the attitudes to these employees actually. And it is believed that in the long run, these employees will not only attain knowledge and skills, but in the long run, they may end up changing their attitude, for example, towards work. And of course, attitude towards work is very important. A negative attitude has a negative consequence on an organization's performance compared to a positive attitude towards work. Now, the question would be, why is the training needed? What brings the training to become a need, right? So what brings about the need for training is basically for the organization to be able to compare the actual performance for the organization to be able to compare the actual performance on ground and the desired or the expected performance, right? So the performance could be in terms of maybe productivity. For example, you need to, you can look at that productivity in terms of output produced, right? So you could find that the targeted amount of output, the targeted amount of products that you are expecting as an organization is not comparable, is not the same as what is actually happening on ground. And therefore that if there is a gap, actually the difference, the variation between the desired performance and the actual performance creates a gap, and that gap is what brings about the need for training. And that gap is what brings about the need for training. So why the training? Why do organizations need the training? A number of reasons applied, or there are a number of reasons why these organizations need the training. Number one is that there is need to improve efficiency of employees. There is need to improve the efficiency of these employees, the way these employees do their work, of course, and be able to come up with positive results will depend on whether they have been trained or not by the organization. Then it helps to reduce wastage of time and money. Wastage of time and money, right? So for example, some of us who have studied a little about total quality management, you realize that this waste is in terms of, this waste can be in form of very many things. When we talk about wastage or waste, it can be in terms of the lead time, whereby, for example, if it is customer care, someone is working at customer care, right, in an organization, but they are taking long to respond to calls. They are taking long to respond to customer complaints. That is a wastage. And that wastage is in terms of queuing. It is in terms of, it's called queuing, right? Then the wastage can be in terms of defective products. Defective products are those products that are manufactured, but they come out as final products that have errors. If it's a final product but it has errors, it has not come out perfectly well, then it is a defective product. So it can also be in terms of defective wastage, can also be in terms of defective products. But of course, that one can be attributed to poor skills, to low required skills for a particular position. For example, if it is in the production process, I'm assuming maybe it's a bakery and they are baking cakes. They are baking cakes, cookies, bread, and so on. So if these people that are making the cakes and do not have the necessary skills to make these cakes, you realize that at the end of the day, these cakes will sink. They'll come out maybe when they are half baked. They will come out maybe when they are burnt, when they are not good enough. So that is wastage in terms of defective products. Are we together? So the essence of training is for these employees to be able to acquire the required skills and the knowledge and reduce the occurrences of defective products. Because when a company manufactures products that have errors or defects, that one will be a loss, right? So training will help to reduce those losses. All right. Then to have quality output, of course, quality, there is a correlation between quality and the skills of the workers. Of course, keeping other factors constant, if workers have the relevant skills to do that kind of job, then the output is going to be of high quality. Then also the training is needed to bring down supervision. If the workers are equipped with the rightful skills and they are sure of what they are doing, then they will, it is expected that they will work under no or if under minimal or even no supervision at all, right? The supervision comes in because you have to, to command and guide this employee do ABCD, right, by their supervisors. But if they are well equipped with the required, with the appropriate skills, the supervision will be minimal or almost not there. Then to have preventive maintenance. This preventive maintenance, we can look at it in the perspective of maybe workers that are operating machines, right? In maybe a factory, right? So if they have the relevant skills to operate these machines, then it is very certain that these machines will not get breakdowns, right? Because these workers know how to operate them. Otherwise, if the workers are not do not have the relevant skills to operate these machines, you find that these machines will have will break down in most cases, and the breakdown of these machines, of course, increases the repairing costs, which is also a loss or a cost in itself. Then the training also is aimed to achieve optimal performance. Optimal performance. When we talk about optimal, optimal means that you are producing at an equilibrium, isn't it? Optimal. So optimal means that you are producing at, if this is the quantity of your products produced, right? Then it means that with the optimal, the demand is equal to the supply. The demand is equal to the supply. In other words, you don't have excess and you don't have a shortage. That is what we call optimal, right? So with producing at optimal means that if it is customer demand or customer, you're practically providing the required amount that the customers have demanded for. There are no scenarios of overproduction, because of course at the end of the day, if it's overproduction, what remains, what is not sold, is going to be wastage, right? And if it is under supply, then at the end of the day, you're not going to meet the required demand, and also the sales will automatically be low, and of course low output and low profits, right? So I hope we get the meaning of optimal performance. Then to boost the morale of employees, of course, the training, like we've already seen, not only benefits the workers, but it benefits it not only benefits the organization to meet its organizational goals, but also it benefits the employees as well. Because of course, for some of the trainings, especially the formal ones, these employees may be at the end of the training, they may be awarded the certificates, right? So you as an employee, you're having self-development, you're even increasing the morale, you're gaining that morale to work more for the organization, because the organization is also building you, right, in terms of skills and knowledge. Then to prepare workforce for future challenging work, of course, of course, in the future, as the world as we go on, as we continue to live in this world, there are many changes, especially with the changing technology, right? So with the changing technology, with the ever-changing technology, this training, especially when it is in the lines of acquiring the necessary technical skills, it will help, or it helps these workers for these particular organizations that are training them to be able to meet the ever-challenging changes in technology, to cope up actually and to comply with the required changing technologies, right? For example, we realize that with this COVID-19 pandemic, the technology has changed in a way that even in our learning, in our education, people are now embracing the online studying, or what we call the virtual learning, right? So even what we are doing here, we are actually learning virtually, right, by the internet. So all that, contrary to the original or to the previous physical classes that were happening before the COVID-19 pandemic came in. So the world is now embracing online teaching, online learning, which is a practically virtual learning. So all those come in. For example, now organizations now are training their employees on how to use the virtual, how to work virtually, it's called remote working remotely, right? When you're working, you're not at your place of work physically, but you're operating or you're working online. That is working remotely, right? And then also to reduce absenteeism, right? So if the training, for example, is regular, you find that these employees will have to no option but to attend, right? So this reduces on the absenteeism. Then to bring down grievances, most of these grievances in these organizations, they are basically some of them have to do with these workers not doing their work or their tasks in the right way, right? So, but that one comes in because maybe because this employee doesn't have the relevant skills. So that one will reduce or will bring down the grievances among, for example, workers and their supervisors and so on. Then also to build career by personal growth. This one basically to build the careers of these employees, right? What we call career growth. When they are being trained, they are also developing their careers, right? For example, if you've been let me say a lecturer, and they are training you on how to learn this, how to use these e-learning platforms, various tools that can be used with this virtual learning or virtual teaching. They are basically enhancing your career, isn't it? All right. So I hope we are together up to that level. If there is any question, please feel free to ask, right? So these objectives can also be grouped, can further be grouped into the training objectives can also be further be grouped into what we call individual objectives, organizational objectives, functional objectives, and societal objectives. So the training could be that could have an objective of enhancing these individuals, like we've already seen in the general objectives. These trainings can be aimed at career growth of these employees in an organization. Also, the training, we've already seen that in the general training objectives can be an organization objective whereby these organizations are doing the training to help improve performance. That can be in terms of increasing productivity, increasing sales, improving customer relationships, and so on, right? Then also it can be training in the perspective of functional objective, where different departments of an organization are training their department members to be able, for example, it could be that it is maybe the finance department that is training, maybe it is the marketing department that is training, maybe it is the production department that is doing the training. So of course, at the end of the day, the organization will be benefiting in terms of that department becoming a better one in the lines of those department workers gaining the relevant skills that they need in that department. Then this training can also be categorized in the training objectives can also be further be categorized as societal objectives, society, right? So the societal objectives is whereby these organizations are doing the training in line to be able to ethically and socially be responsible for the needs of the society, right? So for example, the training is practically to the much as the organization is doing it, but at the end of the day is to enhance these workers with the relevant skills, and at the end of the day it will be able to prepare them for the job markets, right? So also under societal objectives, the training can have that societal objectives of creating constant awareness in the minds of the employees about basically to make society aware of the mission of the industry and its objectives, right? So the training will basically be able to make people aware, the society aware about the mission of that particular organization or as an industry as a whole, right? And also it brings about a sense of belonging and commitment to the organization. So these employees are practically through training, they are gaining a sense, they gain that sense of belonging to the organization, and it helps them to have a team spirit as well. All right. And then also this training helps also to meet the corporate plans of these organizations as they train these various departments, right? So it will not be only training for the departments under a particular organization that is preparing the training, but also it will be the training for the industry as well. When we talk about industry, we are talking about a collection of firms. For example, if this training is done in maybe one of these, which example now can I give? If it's a training maybe in about telecommunication skills, right? In an organization, in a company, then at the end of the day, it is working for the good of the telecommunication industry, right? So it will not only help that organization, but it will also provide skills for the industry as a whole, right? And then also it helps these workers to be able to perform their jobs efficiently and effectively. Efficiently has to do with the minimum costs, but increase the output. Efficiency has to do with the minimum cost, but increase the output, whereas effective has to do with the positive results. Positive results. Then also it helps the trained manpower, of course, at the end of the day, are able to meet the diverse needs of the rapid growing industry. So like we've already seen that this training will not only benefit that particular organization organizing the training, but also helping the industry as a whole. The industry will be a collection of those farms, of those similar farms as a whole. And then also we've already seen that it provides employment opportunities. Of course, we know that one of the causes of unemployment is that people may have the papers, the so-called qualifications, but they lack the skills. It's one thing to have a paper talking about you that you've studied this, and it's also another to have the relevant skills that are required by particular employers, right? So it also helps reduce the unemployment level at the societal level, right? All right. All right, so even organizing these trainings also helps in career planning and growth, like we've already seen. It also helps in succession planning. Succession planning, we looked at that concept or that term in our previous lesson, where we were looking at human resource planning, and we looked at succession planning. So with the succession planning, we saw that majorly it happens at the managerial level, where, for example, if the employee at maybe the manager is about to leave, or it is the organization expects or plans ahead of time that in case, for example, someone at the managerial level leaves, another person will be able to step into the shoes of that person at the managerial level who has left. So that is succession planning. So of course, this other person that is looked at or is expected to replace someone, maybe the manager, the MD, right, or the CEO, who is leaving maybe a few years in future. That person will have to be trained, such that by the time they join that position, when the person has left, they have the required skills, right? We are going to look at different ways of training, different techniques of training, and we shall see that mentoring is one of them. We are still looking at the societal objectives of training, and also it helps to educate and equip the employees, right, to respond to expectations of the customers. Like we've already seen that these organizations, they have different goals, right? So some of them, they have a goal of customer satisfaction, right? Customer satisfaction, whereby for example, we looked at an example of someone who is working at the customer care desk, and this person is trained on how to work with the clients, on how well to communicate with the clients, with the customers. So of course, if this person has been trained, this will improve on the customer care. And of course, at the end of the day, you're retaining your clients rather than losing them, right? Then also, this training also helps also to support the internal faculties, to support these internal, not only the internal faculties in the organization, but also externally in terms of, developing the required skills, because these people that are working within these organizations, they're not going to work there forever. They will have to go elsewhere and apply those skills outside. All right. So let's look at, before we look at the importance of training, let's look at the characteristics of learning. The characteristics of learning. So the training, of course, at the end of the day, the trainees will learn. They will have to learn something from these trainings, isn't it? But this training is two-way fold, right? It is two-way fold. It's not only for the trainer, but it is also for the trainees, the people that are being trained. So one of the things, one of the most important element is that these trainees, the people that are being trained, should be willing to learn. Otherwise, if they are trained and they are not willing to learn, then at the end of the day, the organization will not have positive results, right? So let's look at the characteristics of learning. Number one is that learning has a purpose. For example, we are seated in this class, we are learning getting knowledge about the human resource, right? Human resource management. We have a purpose, right? And one of those purposes is maybe at the end of the course to be able to achieve, maybe to acquire that award of maybe masters of whatever, right? Master of Business Administration. Project, is it what? Postgraduate diploma in project management and whatever that your courses you're doing. So we are learning because we have a purpose. Otherwise, you cannot start learning something when you don't have a purpose. That one will not be learning, right? So learning, with the learning, you must have a purpose why you are learning. And then also learning comes through experience, right? There is that saying that experience is the best teacher, right? Experience is the best teacher. Some of the things that we learn, it's not because they've sat us down and told us that you have to do A, B, C, D. No. Some of them you either go through bad experience and you get to know that it is something bad or it is something good, or this is the way that it does. Are we together? For example, if you look at a child, maybe a toddler, what they do if maybe if they've not learned about the fire and you're trying to prevent them from the fire, but you cannot explain to them how bad the fire is, right? What you can do is slightly, you put a finger on the fire slightly, and then from there they'll remove the finger, and then after getting that pain of how it feels to be burnt, that will be experience. Yeah. So they are learning through the bad experience of getting burnt, and they will know that fire is bad. Next time when they see the fire, they will never go near that fire. So most of the things that we do learn, we do learn them through experience, what we've gone through. Are we together? So learning also can come through experience, what we have gone through. This experience can also be in terms of this job experience that you look at, that maybe I've been in this position for this number of years. I've maybe taught this course for this number of years. Yes, as you teach, you are getting experience. As you're interacting with the students, you're getting the experience, right? So learning comes through experience. Those are characteristics of learning. Learning is multifaceted, meaning that it is only not only for the trainer to do the training, but also the person being trained, the trainee has also to do their part. Are we together? For example, if we're in this class, myself as a facilitator, I do my part, but also yourself as a student, you have to do your part, right? For example, you need to do your assignments on time, submit them. You will need to attend class. You will need to sit for tests and examinations, right? You need to do all that, what that is required. You need to sit down and read, right? And get to read these course materials. So that is your part. So learning is, that's what we mean, that learning is multifaceted, right? So it is, for example, if it's two parties, a student and a teacher, or a trainer and a trainee, it will be two-way-fold. Everyone will have to do their job, their task, for us to be able to get the final positive outcome, right? Then learning is an active process. It's an active process where it involves the participants, of course, are the trainer and the trainees, right? The trainer and the trainees are where we have to participate in class, for example, and they have those experiences, right? So with the training, learning should be a prerequisite, I should say, or a requirement for the people that are being trained, right? Otherwise, if they are not willing to learn, then nothing much, right? Like you students, if you are not willing to learn, I can push you and but at the end of the day, if you're not willing to learn, we shall not get positive results. Even the grades will not be good, right? So it is a two-way fold. So let us look at the laws of learning. And there are basically 5 laws of learning. 5 laws of learning. Number 1 is there is what you call the law of readiness. The law of readiness, yeah. The student or the trainee must be ready to learn. They must be willing to learn. Otherwise, if you're not ready to learn, then even if they train you for 1,000 times, there is nothing you're going to grasp because you've not made up your mind to learn, right? Then the law of exercise, which I can simply paraphrase as the law of practice. The law of exercise, which I can paraphrase as the law of practice, right? So for you to be able to learn, you must practice. For example, at this this level of academic learning, you must read your course material, you must discuss, you must, you have to do a number of things. If it's a practical course, we are going to see that the training can be in form of your computer-based training. You must practice. If, for example, you're learning, they are teaching you computer skills, you must go and sit on your PC and practice how the software is being used. Maybe that statistical software. How do I use this? Maybe you're learning, they are teaching you how to use Excel, MS Excel, MS Word, and then you have to sit down and get a number of maybe activities. How do I prepare this kind of report? And so that is practice. Otherwise, if you don't practice, you will not learn, however much they give you the theory, right? So law of exercise, then the law of primacy. The law of primacy basically means that the trainer must have it right, right? The trainer must be providing you with the rightful information. Otherwise, if they are providing you with the half-baked information, you will not be able to learn, to acquire the required skills. So the trainer must be, a primacy means that the trainer must have the required information to deliver to the person being trained. The law of intensity. The law of intensity. The law of intensity means that, of course, these are laws of learning, right? The law of intensity means that, as a trainer, as a teacher, you must use different methods, right? The more you use different methods, to teach. For example, you can use demonstrations, right? Skits, right? You can use the slides, courseware, videotapes, right? You interact with the students. So all these ones that we do, for example, personally, what I do is that these recordings, I share them on the platform, because I know there are some of us that, should I call it lazy? But we don't entertain lazy students. Those of us that do not want to do too much of the reading, right? Such that you can listen to the recording, and you'll be able to grasp, to get a key message, rather than not just being given too many notes, right? And the notes are too much for you. I'm not saying don't read, but giving you different modes of different delivery modes, the recordings, the slides, this course material, the notes, right? And these presentations that we tell you to present, it is for basically you to do the self-reading. Even with your self-reading, you can discover something that you may not have discovered in class, right? It could be discussions, right? Where you're discussing with your fellow